Hunter.
Hello.
I'm curious. So natural bodybuilding, it kind of gets flack sometimes and just seen as like, in some circles, it almost seems like it's a joke. But like, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think it's like, is it a worthy pursuit? And like, why do you enjoy natural bodybuilding?
Well, I would say the first thing that I want to caveat is like natural bodybuilding is much different than enhanced bodybuilding, and it's kind of sad. But the enhanced side of things, like if you look at the Mr. Olympia and you see the guys that are up there, nearly 300 pounds with very, very low body fats, it's just very unachievable for a lot of people, and they are literally the best in the world. And even those individuals that are taking performance enhancing substance or PEDs, they are the genetically elite on top of being on top of all the gear PEDs that they're on. And they're also like amazingly hard workers, so very small, like I don't know, 5% of the population could potentially achieve that. It's probably even less than that, to be honest. But natural bodybuilding, I think, is a very, very healthy sport. I would argue to some extent you can do enhanced bodybuilding in a healthy manner, more healthy than what some people do. But I would say, like the practices of natural bodybuilding, besides maybe the tail end of like weight loss cuts, but if we look at like the side effects that come from weight loss diets, maybe there's some hormonal downregulation, low blood pressure, low heart rate, all those kinds of things. It's not nearly as bad as being, even just a tad bit overweight or obese, in my opinion. So people always ask me like, oh, is that healthy for you? And like when I'm getting ready for shows, they kind of see my cheekbones coming in, all this kind of stuff. They're like, is that healthy for you? And I'm like, I don't want to be mean, but it's healthier than, where your body fat's currently at right now, because you're carrying a little bit of extra body fat, and it's much healthier than being obese, right? So, and then if you look at it in the way that I like to do bodybuilding, like if you look at bodybuilding shows, I think people compete too often. I like to compete maybe as a maximum every 2 years to give yourself more off-season time, which is like the healthy time, I guess you could say, and less of the contest time, which is slightly more unhealthy, okay? Now, as far as like, is natural bodybuilding worth it? I would say if you're going for money, no. It is not worth it. No. Even if even if you're like the best of the best, maybe you can win like maybe $10,000-$12,000 at a show, but the travel, the food, the supplements, the gym memberships, the time that you will lose, all that kind of stuff does not make up for the cost, in my opinion. I've never made $1 from natural bodybuilding. People do, which is awesome, and it's really cool to get a check if you're a pro to, get a check at a show. But again, I don't think it ever it could never be an income source. It can lead into things, like if you have an amazing physique, you can use that to promote yourself and maybe do like affiliate marketing, or you could sell personal training, or whatever the case might be. So that's a big thing. But even getting sponsorships is much harder than like, it would be if you're an enhanced bodybuilder in the IFBB, which is kind of a sad thing to think about. Like I don't know any bodybuilder, like natural bodybuilder, that lives off of like sponsorships alone. I don't know. I've never heard of it. Maybe there is someone out there that does that. So I would say if you do not love the journey, and if you don't love working out, if you don't love, potentially doing cardio, which I don't do a lot of cardio myself, but if you don't love eating the same thing every single day and, sticking to your macros, if you don't find enjoyment in that, if you don't find enjoyment in a little bit of suffering and learning from that suffering, then the actual process of competing is never going to be enjoyable for you either. Unless you're like the genetically elite that can kind of just show up to a show and win, and then you just ride off of those wins, then you might, find enjoyment in it. But if you don't love the process, like if you don't love, super hard, grueling workouts, and like, again, if you can't learn something from natural bodybuilding, then you're not going to like the process of actually competing. I like competing. Like I like going to shows. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's kind of like a final showcase. Like I went through all this work, and I literally diet for a year for some of my shows.
Very
a year
meticulous.
to 40 weeks sometimes, and I the show that I do, or multiple shows that I do, is the showcase. So another thing is, what you can learn from natural bodybuilding, I think makes it worth it. So what you can learn, myself, I gained a lot of confidence. Like as a kid, I was very, very overweight.
Yeah.
I did my first bodybuilding show. It was something that I never thought I could possibly do, right? And after that, there's so many things that I won't necessarily go into details to, but I was like, man, this is something that's really scary. I don't know if I can do this. But then I look back at it and I'm like, well, I did do that bodybuilding show. And that was like one of the scariest things that I could possibly think of. And I did that and I conquered that. And then I was able to do this next thing and this next thing and this next thing and this next thing. So like what you can get from bodybuilding can be amazing. And what you can learn from it can be amazing. But it can also be awful. There's a big chance of potentially developing an eating disorder after your shows.
Yeah.
Post-show depression is a real thing. That can certainly happen. Poor body image. All this kind of stuff. Because one of the things that happens when you get super, super lean, like let's say that whatever your best was, you will always compare yourself to your best. So you'll never be truly satisfied until you get back to that and or better than that best. And you're not going to look your best when you're in your off season. So that's where I encourage people to look at the gym as an outlet to kind of try to fight that depression, right? I love looking into therapy. I love looking into self-care, meditation, all that kind of stuff as well. And you should have some kind of a plan set up for your post-show, self-care or mental health, right?
Yeah.
But if you can be like, oh man, just finished my diet, super excited to get into the off season, gain some weight, lift heavy weights, and build more muscle mass. Like the more weight, the heavier you are as an individual, I don't care who you are, the heavier you are, the more weight you're going to be able to move.
Yeah, mass moves mass.
The more muscle you're going to be able to accrue and also or accumulate on your body, right? And also just finding enjoyment in that, right?
Right.
You don't have to necessarily become a power lifter, although if somebody wanted to become a power lifter in their off season, I would say power to them, and that could be something that keeps you motivated. So yeah, but like I said, if you don't love the process of like training, dieting, seeing the bodily changes, but also going through a little bit of suffering, I don't know why, but a lot of bodybuilders, including myself, the suffering is kind of like a part of the enjoyment, and we just try to learn from that suffering. Like I know after every season of contest prep that I do, I get through it and I'm like, I'm ready to tackle some stuff.
Yeah.
I'm ready to tackle some like long days at work. I'm ready to tackle some grueling workouts, all this kind of stuff. It's almost like bodybuilding prep can build a calloused mind if you look at it.
Oh,
right?
sure.
Because the mental fortitude, like we get callous on our hands when we stimulate or when we kind of overwork. Like if you're a construction worker or if you just lift a lot of weights, you'll get that callous because you have to adapt and build up kind of like that self-defense mechanism in order to continue to do it, right? Mm-hmm. You can do the same thing with your mind. Every single day when you're like, man, I wonder what would happen if I just had this slice of pizza right now, right? I'm really hungry. I want a slice of pizza. Every time that you can push past that, you build a little bit of mental callus, right? And that's something that you can take away from that contest prep. And then when you go into maybe you have a big project at work, or maybe you're trying to start a business or go to college, whatever the case might be, you have that calloused mind, and you can take that and go into whatever endeavor you're trying to go into. So that's what you can gain from natural bodybuilding, in my opinion. But is it worth it? For me, yes. Mm-hmm. I've had some people like, hey, maybe tell me like, hey, maybe natural bodybuilding is not the best idea. I've had like some digestive things that popped up in the past and things like that, and some respectable, and I respect their opinions. Some practitioners told me like it's probably not a good idea that you continue doing natural bodybuilding for your long-term health because of the kind of extremeness of the diet. I was like, yeah, but I never would have like gotten on this path if natural bodybuilding was not there. So it's something that I want to continue to do, and I'm continuing to try to learn how to do it in a very healthy way. So that's kind of my path, and healthy way is like always what I'm trying to do. As I am going to school for functional medicine. That's an endeavor that I'm trying to get into, but I incorporate what I learn and what I know about that into my natural bodybuilding, and I always hope to be able to use that to help natural bodybuilders and or even enhanced bodybuilders, to be honest, do it in a very healthy manner. And also, you can do things short term that are unhealthy as long as you have a plan thereafter. I'll have a big plan, I guess you could say, or I do have a plan of what will be taking place after the contest that I do. And same with my clients. Okay, health phase, here we go. The health phase would literally be, trying to get into a healthier body fat, trying to get certain hormones up, all this kind of stuff. I like to run lab work personally because, like I said, hormones go down. At the end of my contest season, it's probably not going to be pretty, but I will be running, another hormone panel, full panel. I'll see where I'm at, and then I'll see what I can try to support using kind of natural methods that are functional medicine based, so functional health based. So but that's, I guess, natural bodybuilding in a nutshell. If you're ever like looking into doing natural bodybuilding, you might run into me if you come to one in the cities or around. I do natural bodybuilding judging. Success Fitness and Training sponsors some shows. So you should definitely check out natural bodybuilding shows. Go to one, spend the money, do the admission, and go see a show. And that's one of the best things that you can do to learn a little bit more about competing. Or you can speak to an individual like myself, or a knowledgeable coach like Tom at Success here, and individuals that have been in the trenches, competed themselves, brought clients to stage, all that kind of stuff, and just talk to them about it. We're more than happy to help you out and kind of teach you a little bit about this world of natural bodybuilding. So
that's right. This man is an artist. That's what the process is. It's an art.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot for me in terms of helping me understand what it is to be a bodybuilder. Because within like the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, I leaned a bit more into bodybuilder style training. Like, I've been into fitness for a very long time, but it's been more recent that I got into like the process of being a bodybuilder. And I'm not quite as meticulous as you are, but like I respect how meticulous you are and how much you take on the art. And you've coached athletes to being pro as well, so that's very impressive. And you're young.
we got a client getting ready for one of the biggest shows of the year. It's the biggest show that takes place every year. It's called the OCB Yorton Cup. So we'll have a competitor in the Yorton Cup this year, actually, a pro athlete that'll be competing in the Yorton Cup. And yes, we've taken multiple athletes from like start to finish becoming pros. I guess you could say. That's don't want to throw this out there fully, but that is like one of the things that I would say we would specialize in, is we can take somebody that has maybe never even lifted weights before, and not saying that this can be overnight, but we can take somebody that's never lifted weights, get them into a good program of lifting weights, build habits, all this kind of stuff, and eventually diet them down into shows like we've done this, and have them potentially win a pro card, as long as they have like the body structure, the genetics, all that kind of stuff on top of the work ethic. We can do that. So we can take amateurs or people that don't even know anything about bodybuilding or can't even lift weights into pro athletes, and that's something that is possible. If you're out there and you've ever had it in your mind, like, what if I could do that? Yes, you could do that. You certainly could do that. And
you just have to want it.
It's just a matter of like, are you willing to put the work in for a long period of time? And I think you can do it. I think anyone out there eventually, if they work hard enough, can become a pro. Can you do well as a pro? Everybody? I think not, just because there's so much genetics to it. But I think everyone out there, if you put enough time and effort into it, eventually you could become a pro if you get the right help and all that kind of stuff. And don't forget, there's a lot of things that go into it. How you look, the muscle mass, the level of leanness, the symmetry, the hair and makeup to a small amount, especially for females. Yes, tanning is huge. Getting the right tan. The posing that you have. Less into the posing routine, but just going through your mandatory poses, whatever that is for whatever class of natural bodybuilding that you're doing. And I like to almost not say natural bodybuilding as much anymore. I almost just say physique sport, if you've ever noticed that, because Like there's so much else besides bodybuilding. Just for, you know, men, for example, we have bodybuilding, we have classic physique, which is similar to bodybuilding, just different poses, different criteria, symmetry, all that kind of stuff. We have men's physique, which is, I guess you say they wear like the men's swimsuits.
Yep.
They're longer, right? And then, you know, within female classes, we do have bodybuilding at some shows. The bikini is very popular. There's wellness that actually just started this last year.
Yep.
There's physique, and then there is figure, right? And all of those are, you know, the classes. So it's not just bodybuilding. There's actually more to it than bodybuilding. Like there's more other classes than there are just bodybuilding. So I like to say physique sport.
I like that. I like that. I can get behind that.
Or physique athlete, I guess you could
A lot
say.
of options.
Yeah, lots of options. So
Yeah, dude, you put it super well. Perfect.
Sweet.
Thank you so much, Hunter.
you're welcome. Yeah.
And good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck.